Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. A special swearing-in ceremony took place at Lethbridge City Hall as our city welcomed its new council. We have an exclusive one-on-one interview with Lethbridge's new mayor, Blaine Hagan, who will discuss some of the biggest issues our city is facing. And Alberta Government House Leader Jason Nixon talks about his party's plan for creating more jobs and leading our province back to economic prosperity.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Government House Leader Jason Nixon outlined Alberta's fall legislative session today, a session Nixon says will focus on COVID-19 recovery, jobs, and economic growth for our province. He says Alberta is poised to lead the way economically across the country.
The legislation introduced in this session will help fulfill our promise on affordable housing, conserving our environment, and bringing more transparency to infrastructure spending. I look forward to working for Albertans with my legislative colleagues in the weeks to come. Alberta's Government Caucus is working with the official opposition also to ensure MLAs are following the same practices of the public service in the Assembly. I also say that as we look around the country, Alberta's economy is strong. It looks like we are poised to have the largest economic recovery in the country, something that we intend to build on the strong piece of legislation that have come out of the legislature in the last 2 years that have focused on red tape reduction, regulatory reform to create jobs, tax reduction to attract job creators, and of course, modernizing environment enforcement around things like geothermal, hydrogen, technology and innovation and emission reduction, and of course, modernizing liability frameworks.
Nixon says it's his intention to have a lot of this legislation to be passed before MLAs return home for Christmas. House Leader Nixon also responded to calls by the opposition NDP for an all-party committee to study the government's response to the fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic and if the UCP would be willing to support it.
Clear, we will not be supporting this. And again, I continue to call on the NDP not to focus on their political gain and their political ambition during what is a crisis inside our province. We're managing the fourth wave of COVID. To have an all-party committee and to begin to call healthcare witnesses to the legislature to discuss what has taken place during the pandemic is completely inappropriate of the NDP to even ask for that. So certainly we will not support it. The NDP don't have the ability to move any such motion anyway, but we would not support it if they did. What we will be doing is we will be having a robust COVID debate inside the chamber. I will put in a motion I've already put on the early order paper last week that will put the framework in place for a debate inside the chamber, including with the Premier and the Health Minister and the official opposition and all members of the chamber to be able to have a discussion of where we're at on COVID-19.
Nixon adds that a government review will take place once our province is outside of the crisis situation of the pandemic. Alberta's COVID-19 passport program now requires 2 doses of the vaccine. Business owners and venues participating in the program must require proof of both doses or a negative test result before allowing people inside. Previously, only 1 dose of the vaccine was required. While certain business owners have been unhappy with the mandate, others such as Scott Krebs with Kelly's Pub in Edmonton say the program has been seamless and customers show up ready with their passports out. A protest for Albertans against vaccine mandates took place Sunday at the legislature in Edmonton. Hundreds of people attended the event, including healthcare workers, frontline workers, faith groups, concerned teachers, and parents. Organizers say the protest against forced vaccine mandates is growing across the province.
Our mission is to get AHS to repeal this mandate, and so our lawsuit favors all AHS frontline workers who are affected by the mandate. So we're fighting for the freedom of thousands of frontline workers right now. Our group is one thing. We are anti-coercion. That's what we're unified and fighting against. Our members are willing to make a concession. We're saying we will get tested regularly to show you, to prove to you that we are safe to come to work.
Earlier this month, we shared the story of Haley Mock, a healthcare worker in a long-term care home in rural Alberta. She's refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine that is mandatory in keeping her job. She says she is twice shy about vaccines due to an adverse reaction from a flu shot she says caused her to end up in hospital a number of years ago. She was unable to get a medical exemption from her doctor. Video journalist Naveen Day joins me now in the studio with an update to that story. Nav, what's the latest from Haley?
Well, Hal, while currently on stress leave, Mock says her supervisor sent her a text message early last week to find out if she's going to get vaccinated in order to be eligible to return to work. She feels that employees should be free from obligation while they're on leave to take care of their own health, and that employers should not be harassing their off-duty staff.
There's still other things that take precedence over your job, like your mental health and everything like that. And they really shouldn't be asking us if we're vaccinated. If I have a doctor's note to be off till December, I shouldn't be being asked if I'm being, if I've got my vaccinations or not. It's really none of their business.
Alberta Health Services did respond to my inquiry if they condone employers contacting staff while on leave. They said, AHS has been actively reminding staff and leaders of the deadlines to meet this policy and encourages all staff to submit as soon as possible. A newly hired worker or worker on an approved leave of absence will be required to provide proof of immunization before returning to work. As for Mock's future, she is utilizing her time off to look for a new career that won't discriminate against her unique situation. She says the residents at the care home are going to miss her.
I have one resident there that she calls me at 8:30 in the morning every single day to ask when I'm coming back to work, because we have a very close bond, and I've known her for a lot of years, and I go and visit her at the window, and we talk about stuff. We don't talk about COVID or anything, but it's sad to me.
Mock says that she's sad that she will be allowed to visit the residents unvaccinated, but will no longer be allowed to work at the care home after the deadline to show proof of vaccination passes on November 30th. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Thanks so much, Nav. Well, it was another beautiful autumn day in the Windy City as we had double-digit temperatures once again. Jeanette Rocher is here now with an early look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, will these mild temperatures continue for most of the week?
Well, those double digits should be sticking around until at least Thursday of this week before we start to see a cooling off trend. That's when we will see those single digits pop back up again for the weekend anyways. Now keep in mind, at this time of year, we're seeing seasonal highs of around 11 or 12, so we're doing not so bad at all. That wind also kicking around this evening. We should be seeing gusts up to 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, even more windy tomorrow with gusts up to 70K, but tomorrow's high 12 degrees right there, sticking it with that seasonal high before we move into Wednesday's high of 13, a high of 10 on a Thursday, and then we're going to see those single digits again for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with highs of 8, 5, and 6. So that is for this week, but I will have more weather for you coming up later on in the show.
Thanks so much, Jeanette. Lethbridge's new mayor and city council have officially been sworn in. The ceremony took place at the 8th Theatre earlier on Monday. As Carson Marsouk reports now, the new mayor and council have a common goal in mind, and that's to work collaboratively over the next 4 years to help move our city forward.
Lethbridge officially has a new city council following Monday's swearing-in ceremony. Mayor Blaine Hagan and councillors Reiko Dodick, Belinda Croson, Jen Schmidt-Rempel, Mark Campbell, John Middleton Hope, Ryan Parker, Jeff Carlson, and Nick Palladino took the oath of office on Monday afternoon.
It's done. We're ready to roll here. We've got a newly elected council, been sworn in today, and look forward to connecting up with them, finding out what different things we've heard on the campaign trail and what we can do to better our community.
Mayor Hagan, who is now the 26th mayor of Lethbridge, says he has heard multiple issues from the community while on the campaign trail that he hopes to bring to the first council meeting.
Safety in the community is one of the top topics. Taxation, busing, there's multiple things. So again, it's going to be great to sit down with all of council and find out what they've heard too.
A common goal among the new council is to work collaboratively with one another, something the previous council faced challenges with.
We worked effectively, we got the work done. It's just going to be, again, sitting down with each and every one and finding out what our priorities are and working on them. And putting any of these differences to the side, and let's just move forward with a sense of accomplishment.
And I really want to make sure that we as a council set the tone for our city as a group that can work together.
The swearing-in ceremony took place at the Yates Theatre, featuring several video messages, performances, and a neighbor-to-nation greeting. Schmidt-Rempel says she is thrilled to be on council and represent Lethbridge over the next 4 years.
It's been a bit of an up and down emotionally. It's like, holy cow, I'm going to do this, and I'm really excited to get to work with fellow colleagues on City Council, seeing what we can achieve together for our city.
Council will have a month-long orientation before sitting around council chambers for their first meeting on November 16th. For Bridge City News, I'm Carson Marsouk.
Newly elected Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Hagan says when he was out door knocking during the last municipal election, the biggest concern he heard from residents in Lethbridge was safety.
Bar none was definitely safety within our community. That was, if it wasn't at 90% of the doors, it was 95. It was safety within our community. And it didn't matter where we went. If it was to senior centers or at the doors or any forums, this was the comments and questions that came out.
Mayor Higgins says now that he's mayor, he'll push to have $1 million, which was taken out of the police budget, put back in. You'll have more details of that in our exclusive interview with him coming up after business news. Lethbridge police have laid charges in connection with the robbery of a North Side business. Police responded to a call Saturday night just before 9 p.m. of a suspect attempting to steal merchandise at the North Side Walmart. He pulled out a knife and threatened staff when he was confronted. The suspect fled the scene in a vehicle, but was later apprehended with the assistance of canine units. 27-year-old Anthony Douglas Johnston of Lethbridge faces various charges, including robbery. His 20-year-old alleged accomplice, Aidan Tanya Betts, was charged with failure to comply with the release order. Johnston will appear in court on Wednesday. Betts on November the 1st. Ottawa ended its Canada Recovery Benefit program over the weekend. The government said the CRB was no longer needed because the Canadian economy was faring better than it was a few weeks ago and months ago. A recent report by the Business Development Bank of Canada said that more than 60% of Canadian business owners say that widespread labour shortages are limiting their growth. Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce CEO Cindy Voss says with the ending of the aid program, it is likely we'll begin to see more people heading back to work.
It's an interesting dynamic, the labor force out there, because there's some industries like say construction that is really struggling with getting employees. The hospitality industry struggling to get employees. So I think that we will see a surplus hopefully in the labor force getting back to work and helping those businesses recover. It might take a little bit longer because there is still that $300 a week benefit if you can't get employed. So it really depends on the job seeker.
As of October the 10th, the CRB has paid out just over $27 billion to nearly 2.2 million applicants since launching in late September of last year. A local gym in our city received an award from the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce acknowledging their contributions to our community. As Micah Quinn explains now, this award was welcomed after the business owner faced so many struggles and challenges during the past year due to the pandemic.
The owner and operator of Kinetic Indoor Cycle and Fitness, Sandra Azachuk, says she experienced emotions of shock, excitement, and an overwhelming sense of honor when she heard Kinetic had won the Business of the Year award.
Seeing this beautiful shining light at the end of a very long, dark tunnel with COVID lasting, 18, 19 months, having that award at the end of it, it just felt so good.
Azachuk says Kinetic's members have been patient and supportive while the gym navigated the rough waters of the pandemic.
With our closures, they've been able to work out at home through our video on demand, but they were ready to come back indoors, ready to get back into the social aspect of the fitness studio, ready to see their friends and their fellow Kinetic community. It's been lovely. We've been so blessed to have our members return after such a long wait.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce, Cindy Voss, says the Chamber wanted to do these awards to showcase the resiliency and strength that Lethbridge businesses have showcased, and Kinetic Indoor Cycle and Fitness was no exception.
Kinetic really stands out as a company that has survived and really put their best foot forward, or their best wheel forward, we could say, on how to be a good role model for business and for community.
There were 12 winners for the Chamber's Business of the Year awards. On top of Kinetic winning the Business of the Year award, there was a Best Innovative Idea During COVID-19 award, Spirit of Reconciliation award, a Young Entrepreneur award, and a New Business of the Year award, just to name a few. You can visit the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce's website for a full list of all the winners. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
The Canadian Armed Forces say up to 6 of its critical care nurses will be deployed to intensive care units in Saskatchewan to help the province deal with its surge in COVID-19 cases. The military also says it will provide medical air transport for critical care patient transfers as capacity allows. It says it may also supply a pair of multi-purpose medical assistance teams to backfill the province's nurses. The military says it is expecting to support Saskatchewan until November 17th, but is prepared to extend that date if necessary. There are also reports that Saskatchewan will be recruiting former police officers to enforce the province's COVID-19 public health orders. According to an official with the Saskatchewan Health Authority, there are also alleged plans in the works to create a secure isolation site in North Battleford. Under recently enacted public health orders, residents must also show proof of COVID-19 vaccine or a negative test if they wish to access non-essential businesses or venues. The province also brought back the requirement for infected individuals to isolate for 10 days. Unvaccinated close contacts must also be isolated for 14 days. Health officials say these steps are necessary as the province continues to deal with the effects of the fourth wave. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will leave later this week on a 6-day trip to Europe. It will include an official visit to the Netherlands, the G20 summit in Rome, and the UN Climate Conference in Scotland. The Prime Minister plans to talk about our country's climate plan and the progress Canada has made on the country's post-pandemic recovery. COVID-19 recovery and vaccine equity will be high on the agenda at the G20 summit. Speculation is swirling in Ottawa over who will be in and who will be out of the new federal cabinet. We shall find out on Tuesday when Governor General Mary Simon presides over the swearing-in ceremony at Rideau Hall. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is once again promising a balance of both men and women. Once sworn in, any new ministers will get a crash course on their portfolios ahead of Parliament's return on November the 22nd. A vigil was held in Burbank, California on Sunday for Helena Hutchins. She's the director of photography on the Alec Baldwin film Rust, who was shot and killed with a prop gun in New Mexico. A camera operator told the authorities that Alec Baldwin was careful with the weapons before the incident.
We lost an incredibly talented person that mattered in this industry, and she was doing her job when she got killed. And unfortunately, we lost a life. A child lost his mom. A husband lost his wife. Parents lost their daughter. We lost a family member. What brings me out here is the fact that we need to make an enlightenment of safety on set, and that we matter, all lives matter, and people need to do their jobs to their caliber. And what happened out here was that they brought in people that had no experience to do a job that needed extreme amount of experience and safety experience.
A powerful storm barreled towards Southern California after flooding highways, toppling trees, and causing massive mudslides in areas that were burned bare by recent fires across the northern part of the state. Forecasters called the storm a bomb cyclone. More than 160,000 homes and businesses in California and more than 170,000 in Washington state were left without power. 2 people were killed when a tree fell on a vehicle in the greater Seattle area. Some regions just north of San Francisco, meanwhile, recorded 6 inches or 15 centimeters of rain over just 12 hours. Not a lot of moisture here in our region. We even hit double-digit temperatures once again in southwestern Alberta, and the warmer temperatures will be sticking around for a good portion of the week. Complete weather details are coming up. You know, the sad thing about all the wind we've been receiving in Lethbridge is that it blows all of the beautiful leaves off the trees so quickly. We barely get a chance to enjoy them, and they're gone, you know. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, that Lethbridge wind will be picking up, but at least our daytime highs this week will be reasonable.
Yeah, you're right, Hal. I do wish those leaves could stick out around just a little bit longer. It would be nice. Speaking of wind, we're looking at some windy conditions this evening. 30 to 50 kilometer per hour winds, even stronger tomorrow, up to 70 winds. So it should be a very windy one for our Tuesday. So the bad news is whatever we had left of our beautiful leaves could be gone after tomorrow. Hopefully not, though. Fingers crossed. 12 degrees is our high tomorrow with sunshine. Average high for this time of year is 12, so we should be reaching that tomorrow into Wednesday. 13 the high, 10 for Thursday with a mix of sun and cloud, partly cloudy skies. Also for Friday, that's when we're going to see those temperatures drop a little bit to the single digits. Friday night, now we could see a possibility of some showers or possibly even some flurries. So hopefully that forecast will change as we get closer to Friday. Looking to the weekend, 5 degrees for Saturday and Halloween Sunday. We're looking at a high of 6 degrees. So that is our 7-day forecast. Like I said before, average high for this time of year, around 11 and a half degrees. -2 is the average low. 24 was where we were at on this day back in 1990. That's pool weather. Would have loved that. -21 was where we were at in 1939. Not so much liking that though. 8:09 a.m. is when the sun rose this morning, and this evening our sunset at 6:22 p.m. So just over 10 hours of daylight. Over on the west coast, there was a wind warning in effect earlier today for the coast for both Victoria and Vancouver. They saw wind gusts up to 90k. Into tomorrow though, a little bit better, 60k winds, still a bit windy. We're looking at 5 to 10 millimeters of rain tomorrow in Vancouver, high of 10, 40% chance of showers in Victoria, high of 13, 12 in Edmonton, and 11 in Calgary, under sunny skies for both of those cities. 11 degrees the high in Saskatoon, under partly cloudy skies. There is a chance of showers tomorrow in Regina, 10 degrees the high, about 20 to 40k winds for both Saskatoon and Regina tomorrow. Winnipeg sitting at 11, partly cloudy skies, a bit more windy there, looking at winds up to 60 kilometers per hour for Winnipeg tomorrow. Over in Toronto, periods of rain expected, 10 degrees the high. Ottawa could see showers as well, 9 degrees the high, and a high of 10 degrees. In Montreal tomorrow, also looking at some rain showers as well. Fredericton, 13 and sunshine, 12 degrees the high in Halifax tomorrow with partly cloudy skies, 12 degrees the high in Charlottetown. And in St. John's, looking at some rain, possibility of some thunder showers there, 6 degrees the high. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Johnson & Johnson says it is looking to bankruptcy as a way to resolve 40,000 baby powder cancer lawsuits. It is a move critics say is an unconscionable abuse of the legal system. Linda Lipson of the American Association of Justice says, quote, "There are countless suffering from cancer because of the toxic baby powder that the company put on the market that has made it one of the most profitable pharmaceutical corporations in the world." The company has denied that its signature Johnson's baby powder and other talc-based products contained asbestos and caused cancer, as alleged by tens of thousands of plaintiffs. Johnson & Johnson has spent nearly $1 billion defending itself. The company stopped selling the baby powder in Canada and the United States in May of 2020. Facebook is expecting a huge rebrand that will focus on its expansion into the so-called metaverse. Metaverse refers to a future version of the internet that people access using virtual reality rather than laptops or phones. Industry analysts say CEO Mark Zuckerberg wants to shift attention away from the company's recent PR woes, where leaked internal documents allegedly showed Facebook knew it was harming people, specifically teenagers. The documents potentially gave lawmakers plenty of ammunition for more regulations on the tech giant. While some argue Facebook's focus on the metaverse is a brilliant idea, it will not be enough to counteract the damaged public perception that has left the company's reputation in tatters. The parent company of Tim Hortons, Burger King, and Popeyes says its third quarter profit was up 52% from a year ago to $221 million US. Restaurant Brands International beat expectations of 76 cents per share. Analysts were expecting 74 cents. The company says revenue climbed more than 10% to nearly $1.5 billion. The increase came as comparable sales rose 8.9% at Tim's, 7.9% at Burger King, but Popeyes, meanwhile, saw a drop of 2.4%. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 68 points on the day to finish at 21,285. The Dow was up 64 points to 35,741. The S&P 500 was up 21 points to 4566, and the Nasdaq was up 136 points on the day to 15,227. West Texas Intermediate oil was even at 83.76 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 62 cents to 5.90 US. Gold was up 3 cents to 1807.76 US an ounce, and silver was even at 24.57 US an ounce. Wheat is at $11.57 per bushel, barley's at $9.25, canola's at $21.27, and corn is at $10.03 per bushel. Live cattle were up 93 cents to $125.03, feeder cattle were up 20 cents to $155.63, and lean hogs were up 88 cents to $74.20. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 80.76 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, today was the official swearing-in ceremony for our newly elected municipal council at Lethbridge City Hall. Mayor-elect Blaine Hagan, a two-term city councillor, takes over from Chris Spearman, who announced his intention of not seeking re-election. Hagan narrowly beat out former city councillor Bridget Mearns with 43% of the vote. 8 city councillors were also sworn in, including 4 fresh faces on council. Coming up, we have an exclusive one-on-one interview with new Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Hagan, who will discuss his plan dealing with some of our biggest issues in the city and how he plans to address them. That Q&A is on deck. It was a very exciting and close mayoral race here in Lethbridge, with Blaine Hagan etching out a narrow 500-vote victory margin over second-place finisher Bridget Mearns. Now, we're honored to be joined today by our new mayor of Lethbridge, Blaine Hagan. Congratulations again, Blaine.
Thank you very much, Hal, for having me.
Now, were you a little surprised that it was so close, under 1,000 votes, or did you expect that?
You know what? I knew that it was quite the campaign, and to be very honest, I knew it was going to be tight. I knew that that Bridget was the one that was actually going to be the one that I had to really mount the campaign for. So yeah, I expected it to be close for sure.
Yeah, Bridget Mearns coming in a very close second, absolutely. Former 2-time city councillor. Now, Blaine, what were some of the bigger issues that came up when you were door knocking with voters?
My gosh, the number one thing, bar none, was definitely safety within our community. That was, if it wasn't at 90% of the doors, it was 95. It was safety within our community. And it didn't matter where we went. If it was to senior centers or at the doors or any forums, this was the comments and questions that came out.
Now, when I met you and I was chatting with you on the media panel for some of these forums prior to the election, I was asking you about potentially putting $1 million back into the police budget that was taken out to address some of the crime issues. Are you still heading down that same road, and you'll talk to the police commission about adding more funding for the police budget?
Absolutely, Hal. This is something that I campaigned on, and I truly believe that our police need the funding necessary to have the resources that they need to protect our community, and especially throughout this pandemic and also with the opioid crisis, we need to be able to give the support services that they need.
Now, have you chatted with Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh about maybe what they're lacking right now? Perhaps more boots to the ground in the streets here in Lethbridge?
Absolutely, I have. Actually, just earlier today, I had a great conversation with him just to reach out and find out exactly what they need. And we're planning on getting together, as well as with the police commission, sit down and see exactly what we need so that when this resolution comes forward, we know that it's got direction and we'll know that the services that they're needing are going to be provided to support our community.
Now, the last couple of years, Blaine, Lethbridge was a very divided city over the opioid crisis, the SCS, and the increased crime that seemed to go along with it. Any thoughts on how to move forward on some of these issues?
You know, a lot of these issues, and we talk about homelessness in our community, Hal, and it's something that definitely is a concern. Now, we got to remember that not every homeless person is an addicted individual, and so we need to find housing for them. And so, of course, that is a lot of collaboration with our provincial government on getting the housing necessary, and beyond that, just collaborating with them and working with the experts on this to make sure that we can get through these trialing times that we're in right now. It's not new to Lethbridge. It's not new in the last while here to Lethbridge, but it's something that many communities are struggling with right now. And we just need to find a plan going forward to be able to assist any of these individuals that are needing support.
Yeah, mental health supports, and like you said, a homeless issue is quite a big issue here in our city, and affordable housing. Now, Blaine, I want to ask you something. Let's circle back to crime for just a moment here. What's with all of the bike chop shops set up in our city? I mean, I've heard of car chop shops, but apparently stolen bikes are pretty big business here in the Windy City.
Absolutely, Hal. You know what? When I was during the campaign trail, I visited many different businesses, and I witnessed just out their window a chop shop happening. Saw some bikes come in, saw them disassembled, and I'll tell you what, within a half an hour, a new bike was going out with different parts, and it was quite concerning to see at how quick and good they are with this. And I would love to have these individuals actually working in a bike shop, because wow, they're good at what they do. And it was really unfortunate to see. But you're right, Hal, it has gone through the roof. You cannot leave a bike anywhere, even if it's locked up. It's so tough because these individuals just know what to do to get the bike they want.
So how do we address some of this stolen bike issues here in our city?
Well, gosh, it's, you know what? It's that collaboration with our chief of police, the police commission, find out exactly what we need to do. And one big part is, and it's something that comes from all the citizens, is to make sure you put your bike in a safe spot. And I know that if we were able to do this 10 years ago, I still say the same thing, like, gosh, I used to do it, leave it here. Why can't I now? But just trying to do our part so that it's those bikes are kept safe, because leaving them out, they're not going to last very long. And it's sad to say that, but it's true currently with the conditions that we're going through here in our community.
Now, Blaine, obviously you have some new faces on Lethbridge City Council. One of the concerns with the last council was the divisiveness. There was a lot of division on council. What is it going to take to actually have that change?
You know, it's one of the first things I want to look at is what, you know, in addition to this safety concern, it's to really sit down with council and find out what exactly they want from the community. Because let's face it, we all want the same result. It's how we get there a lot of times is what differs. But these differences they make us stronger. Let's work on these weaknesses and these differences, because I think it's extremely important. We sit down, we come to a common goal of what we want to see in our community. And I really believe when I look at the council that was elected, I'm just overjoyed. It's great. I really think we're going to work well together. There'll be some challenges when it comes to different topics, but you know what? Respect is the number one thing, and we'll get through it and we go on to the next resolution, because we're going to differ, and that happens always. But you know, it's coming in with respect, Hal. That's the main thing.
Now, Blaine, obviously winter's just around the corner. That means a lot of snow here in southern Alberta. Let's talk about plowing, because I know with the last mayor, Chris Spearman, I've asked him about this, the side streets outside of the major thoroughfares, people sometimes can't get out of their own neighborhoods, their own cul-de-sacs, because the snow is stacked so high. Do you think you're going to kind of push to maybe have some plows go through some of these secondary roads to help people get to work or to school?
Absolutely. It's something that comes up, you know, knocking doors is the concern with snow removal. We were fairly fortunate with a lighter winter here this last one, but you know what? It's over a 4-year budget. So sometimes we're over, sometimes we're under on the budget each year, but over the 4 years, we hope that it levels out. But regarding some of the side streets, it's difficult at times to get them. There's priorities set up. So the main roadways, et cetera. But if we have to use additional services or private contractors to help us get through this in a quicker way, I believe that it's something that council should look into, because not only does it get that snow removed, but it also supports those private businesses that are taxpayers within our community. And so it's something I definitely want to look at.
Increase snow removal without raising property taxes. Remember that. That's pretty key here.
Absolutely, Hal. You're right.
Now, Blaine, every candidate campaigned on a platform by bettering the economic fortunes here in our city. What do you think really needs to happen to see this take place and maybe draw in more businesses to our region?
You know what? The collaboration, it goes back to collaboration, Hal. And the most important part is touching base with our Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Lethbridge. They know, they're in touch. They've got their ear to the ground to businesses that are looking for opportunities in our community and working together with them. As we've say, and it's a word that we've heard far too often, we're better together, but we truly are. We need to work with those experts in those fields. So if it's, like I say, the Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development, I'm planning on getting together with them, sitting down and finding out, you know, some of their goals. And if they've had any communication with these businesses that want to relocate to our community, let's do that. Let's get on that same page and bring business to our community.
Now, Blaine, one of the ballot questions was whether or not to go ahead with a third bridge here in our city. Voters indicated that, yeah, let's go for it. They want one. Now, that's a huge financial undertaking. Where do we go from here? And getting back to property taxes, to build a third bridge, you're going to need to come up with a lot of money here. So are we going to see a large tax increase as a result?
You know, I'm glad I had this opportunity to chat to you about this, Hal, because it's something that's I campaigned on is getting a third bridge for multiple different reasons. And people know me as being very fiscally conservative. So of course, when I said you know, we want a third bridge and the number come up with 12 or 13% tax increase, I would never support it at that. But what I would support is looking into other ways, thinking outside the box. A prime example, not limited to this, but there's many communities that actually have a bridge for zero cost to taxation, and it could be possibly a toll bridge. Now, I know some people get scared when they hear toll bridge. Zero cost, it's user pay, and that's one of the options. The others is to communicate well with our provincial and federal governments to try to possibly, maybe where it's set right now, it's not the right location. Maybe we make it more of a regional roadway so that the province and would be involved. So maybe come up by the airport. I mean, it's just different ideas, but I'd sure like to further investigate it, as we saw the number that came in really showed that there was support for this third bridge. And the last thing I want to touch on is we've allocated some funds, or we want to build a fire hall further south. Now, we've just built one on the west side, and if we had a third bridge, the cost, if it's $40 or $50 million, or whatever that cost is for that fire hall, we might be able to push that down, because the access from the west side, new fire hall, across the bridge may help as well. So safety is one thing for sure, and that could play a part of it, having a third river crossing.
Now, around 56% of voters also indicated that they'd like to see a ward system in place. Some people say, well, Lethbridge isn't really big enough, 100,000 people. We're not Calgary, Edmonton here, over 1 million people. Will you actually pursue that? And what do you think some of the pros and cons are of a ward system here in Lethbridge?
You know what? I want to sit down with council on this one, because it was definitely a direction it looked like from what the citizens that voted had indicated. And it warrants it, because I'll tell you what, I've had so many people throughout this campaign reach out and says, I don't have the time to go through all of these candidates. It's so tough to find out. There's 32 of them for me to research for candidate and 6 for mayor. This ward system, any communication I received was, gosh, we need a ward system so that I can actually truly look in and find out who's running in my area, find out more about them. And yeah, so that is a huge part of it, is just the time commitment to research these candidates. And if you had 32, and having someone you can go to in your area is important, I think. And, you know, it's something that I definitely want to look at. And I think that a council as a whole needs to listen to what the community has said, get together, further investigate this, and find a way to make this happen if that's what the citizens want.
Now, one of your campaign issues was to try and find a way to bring more doctors to our city. I know for our family, we just lost our doctor. He moved back to South Africa. He was frustrated. We have one of the worst doctor shortages in the province here in Lethbridge. So what kinds of things are you hoping to do to try and attract and retain doctors here in our city? How are you going to work with the province in that regard?
It's another thing I put on my platform, Hal, and it was interesting that I had many comments saying that, you know, that's a provincial thing. That's a mandated provincial. You shouldn't get involved at a municipal level. But I'll tell you something. I've had numerous doctors reach out to me. There was 6 over the last week that want to get together, form a committee, find out how we can not only retain but recruit doctors to the area. I spoke with one that has brought over 10 doctors to the area just because they've reached out and to the different schools and stuff and said, you know, Lethbridge is an amazing community. And if these individuals didn't do that, the current practicing doctors here in Lethbridge, we'd have a concern, because the first thing, I know one of them in particular that reached out said, I wouldn't be here if I went off what my Google search was. And the Google search was, Lethbridge has a lot of crime, there's a lot of concerns, but they had a doctor reach out to them and say that it's a beautiful community, there's a great future, it's a great potential, and they moved down here. So it's something that is something we need to look at, and I want to be a part of that, and with any support that we can do, and to help them move forward with that recruitment and retainment of doctors in our community. Because I've talked to so many that have had, have lost their doctor.
So Blaine, any final thoughts as to the direction you want to lead Lethbridge over the next 4 years? Think about where we are now and where we're going to be in the future.
Absolutely. The number one thing is to listen. Listen to the community. There's so many incredible suggestions that come from the community. If we'll just take the time to listen, take those suggestions forward to the rest of council and further investigate them, pass them on to our administration, find out if it's something that's done in another community, do the research. And I think listening is so important. As one of my slogans throughout this campaign is listen to Lethbridge. And I just want to make sure that we do that, and the community has a part in these discussions.
Blaine Hagan is the newly elected Mayor of Lethbridge. Mayor Hagan, thanks so much for your time today. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Hal. Appreciate it.
The last 20 months have presented a number of challenges, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and new normals for faith and family in many Alberta homes. There are more questions than answers for many here in our province. Today's guest is no stranger to politics, nor to the tasks of being a mom and creating online content. Val Olson joins me right now from Florence, Arizona, and you also have a bit of a home in the gas city of Medicine Hat, Alberta, and you're really passionate about what's happening here in our province and specifically in your city. Val, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you so much for having me, Hal. What an opportunity just to, grow our community of like-minded citizens.
Now, Val, you have a background in broadcasting and social media. You also have a passion for politics and advocating for certain policies as well. How did you become interested in politics?
Well, I spent many years as a morning show co-host all across Western Canada. Medicine Hat is where I hang my hat, so to speak, and where I really would describe it as becoming politically woke. And I say that meaning the stories behind the microphone, getting to know the people in my community and the problems that we were all facing together when it came to our children, jobs, the economy. That really pushed me, I guess you could say, over the edge to leave broadcasting and actually try and do something about it. So I did run provincially. I ran for the Wild Rose Party, and I've stayed very politically active. But where I get more involved now is with moms and families and talking about strategies to actually impact the family in a positive way and being able to do something to make our family units and the home units stronger, not relying on politicians to fix all the problems, but figuring out what we can do to make a difference.
So how do you get more moms engaged so they get involved in politics at a grassroots level?
Great question. It's not very hard. I really can't leave my house, to be honest, and not run into somebody I know. So whether that's at the park, whether that's at a homeschool get together, or in my case, I kind of had a shoe in because before I left mainstream media broadcasting, I had been in over 30 schools over the course of 18 months. So when you get into that many classrooms, you tend to know everybody. Or if your kids play on sports teams, you can't go anywhere without, bumping into people you know. And one of the top things I heard from moms, they would approach me and say, I feel like you're a voice for me. I could never do what you do when it comes to, talking about those political issues. I'm not very smart when it comes to politics. And I would always stop and say, it has nothing to do with being smart. You're being made to feel like you don't know enough, and we need to grow your confidence. So let's talk about politics, right from the comfort of our homes. So I started hosting Zoom meetings. I started doing FaceTime meetings. I'd meet with different churches. I'd get involved wherever there were groups of people, and I would just plug them into the issues. So, it really truly is grassroots.
So Val, what do you see are some of the bigger issues the Medicine Hatters are facing right now?
Well, one of the top issues, talking to some families in Medicine Hat, is they're starting to gather in barns to attend church because of the policies that Jason Kenney, who I often refer to as a fake conservative, because a true blue conservative would never pull the punches or the bullying mechanisms that this premier is doing. And it's like unheard of in other parts of the world. I'm talking to them about what it's going to feel like in the cooler temperatures being in barns in southern Alberta to worship. So that's a top issue. Also, obviously, just the bullying mechanisms that are coming down, the fear tactics that are happening to families being forced into should they vaccinate. That's another one. I've often said, I'm pro-vaccine choice. And every politician I'm going to support needs to say that message. I support, pro-vaccine choice, which means very much that it's up to the individual to choose what's best for them. And if you can't find a politician that's willing to have that type of conversation with you, then there's a problem. So those are two of the top issues that I'm talking to Hatters about right now.
So how do you respond, let's say if the government says to you, look, Val, we're just looking after your and your family's best interests about getting vaccinated so you can go out and go to movies, you can travel, and you can be protected from the deadly COVID-19 virus. So how do you respond to that? They're just looking after your best interests.
First and foremost, I thank you. I thank the government for caring about my well-being. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But I have children and I have a family to take care of. And it's important that I take care of my children. And I don't know about you, Hal, but what if I gave you a size extra small women's petite t-shirt to put on? Would it fit you?
Probably not.
Maybe not. And that's the point. When it comes to, one size fits all, I mean, that's silliness. That's not only silliness, it's bullying to say that a one size fits all just works for everybody. Everybody is different, right? We can't just make a blanket policy and ram it on down. That's not how life works. We're all made up of different, some of us might be allergic. Some of us might have a pre-existing health condition. I mean, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's great that the government wants to come out with a one size fits all approach, but we, the people, do know that we're all different. Every family is different. And everybody's reason for taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine is a personal individual choice. And I very much agree that this is a no-brainer for politicians. They can take whatever position they want. They can be like me and be pro-vaccine choice. And that's a very bulletproof statement to say that. It means that you support vaccines and you also support choice. And that's what every politician needs to be saying right now. The ones that are seeking re-election, because as we know, the majority of people, and I mean, I'm talking to lots, not tens, not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands of people that are just like me. They're like-minded. They care about their community. They care about their neighbors. They care about people that they're electing. And they're all saying the same thing. I am going to make my own individual choice. I don't need the government to regulate my morals. I don't need them to use tactics to tell me, which way I should do something. If I'm going to get the vaccine, it's not going to be by force at the hands of the government. I'm going to do it on my own account, or vice versa. I'm not going to take the vaccine, and it's my personal choice.
Now, Val, you talked a bit about homeschooling earlier. What would you say to parents who are maybe considering making the switch, taking their kids out of school and homeschooling them? Talk about some of those challenges.
Well, I'm going into my 4th year of homeschooling. And here's what I can tell you 4 years in. Welcome to the upgraded life. If you are considering a homeschool, and maybe you're scared, I'm just going to use myself. When I first started considering homeschool, I was thinking, now, can I do this? I don't want to mess my children up. What if my children don't get enough socializing? Those were just some of the thoughts that came into my head. And now 4 years in, I can tell you this was simply the best decision that our family could have ever made. It has strengthened our marriage. It's given us a new way to reach our children. And when you think about it, when we send our children off on the yellow bus and they depart their loving parents, they are in the hands of ever-changing adults, and you don't know what's going on when you're not around them because you're not there. So when you think about it, they're in more daylight hours away from you, and they're receiving programming that you really, until you crack those textbooks, you really don't know what they're learning until maybe they're at home with you over the summer holidays or a Christmas break. And then you start saying, where did you come up with an idea like that? And so when you really start cracking those books open and seeing for yourself what your children are learning, you might be shocked at what your kids are receiving as education. And I believe that parents should always be the primary decision makers in their children's lives. And we also know that in Alberta, Jason Kenney, when he was on the campaign trail to be the Conservative Premier of Alberta, he very much said that he felt the government knew more than parents did when it came to their children. And this was shocking. I kept that 1 minute little blurb of him saying that, and I showed many people, and people were appalled. But when you look at it, when you have a premier who has absolutely nothing in common with most families, I mean, he's never been married, he doesn't have children, you know, he really doesn't understand what's going on inside of Alberta homes. You possibly couldn't. He's very unrelatable to women, unrelatable to men, because family is so foundational. And same goes with homeschooling. Now, he hasn't sucked our freedoms back quite yet on the homeschooling front, but I think, it's definitely something you want to have. You want to make sure you know what's going on when it comes to parents being able to decide their children's education, because that's something that I always want to encourage people who are seasoned homeschoolers, that you make sure and stay plugged in and keep an eye on the United Conservative Party and what they're doing to stand up and protect homeschooling families.
So Val, some people say the reason why they don't want to homeschool and they prefer putting their children in public, separate, or maybe even a Christian school, private school, is because they want their kids to interact with other children their own age and to be involved in more events outside of the home. How do you respond to that?
You know, that's a great statement, because I felt the exact same. I understand what that feels like. In fact, before I got into homeschooling, I kind of looked at homeschoolers as maybe a little off, maybe a little weird. And now look at me. Here I am. I've got children ranging in age from 4 all the way to 16. We homeschool all 3 of our children. And I have to be brutally honest with you, socializing, it's too much socializing at times, because it gives our children the ability to have really quality play, not, a 10 minute here or 10 minute there, and then shoved into a classroom with 30 other, the number in some classrooms is astonishingly high. So we get to quality control our playtime and our learning time. And in our case, we've been able to take advantage for homeschooling families of still being able to participate in sports activities. And some schools are very open to that, of including, they're inclusive, and they like to include members of the homeschooling community, even track and field, baseball, all that stuff. So this is just a way for families who really want to take parenting to the next level, and responsible parenting. And, it's not for everybody, but for those people that, just have this feeling in the back of their head, like something they want to try, I encourage them to start looking into it. Don't write it off, explore it, and then make your decision.
Val, I know you're very passionate about politics. Let's circle back to that for just a moment here. Premier Jason Kenney, some of the recent surveys and polls say his popularity is at an all-time low right now. What do you think it'll take for Premier Kenney and the UCP to build trust back with a lot of Albertans as we head into the next provincial election in 2023?
Well, I'm somebody that believes in the strength of the home unit, and you always come back to that. So whether you're a political party or you're a family at home watching, here's the thing. You are only as strong as the leadership. So what that tells us with his polls that are declining, I am not surprised. I see a side of him. He lacks boldness. He lacks courage. He's very cowardly on family issues. In fact, I would go so far as to say that he is the most anti-family premier in the history of Alberta when you look at the freedom-sucking policies that he's pushing. And I mean, it's no shock to know that there are problems inside the UCP, but it's just like cleaning your house. Sometimes political parties need a cleanup, and it always starts from the inside out. So I encourage like-minded supporters of your show who are watching and listening and saying, that's exactly right, that we pray for the parties, our political parties, regardless of who's in power, regardless of politics not being fair, that we have the courage and the boldness to stand and tell the truth. And so I encourage the politicians that are watching in their local ridings to say there are like-minded people just like me. I mean, I am just an echo here. I am echoing tens of thousands of other Alberta moms who are at home, who are watching, who are saying, hey, we have good ideas, we have strategies, we have tools. And I would say to the politicians, don't get too comfortable, because we, the people, we are in charge of hiring and firing. And so when there's poor management and some people just can't do what they're supposed to do, which is work for the people that elect them, if they're not able to represent properly, if they're not capable of sitting down and having hard talks around the kitchen table, that's a real problem. And that's also a sign that they're likely not going to get reelected.
Political advocate, passionate mom, and content creator. You can also follow her on Twitter at Home Media Mom. Val Olson, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Hal.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.